Well, hello and welcome to the Kodiak Broncos Podcast. I am here to talk about why the Broncos offense will be much more efficient going into 2025. But before we get into it, I just want to say, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. You can always wait till the end. Hopefully I've earned it. And yeah, without further ado, it is time to talk about all the problems that we had with our offense last year and why we will be much more consistent going into next year. So here are the big problems that we saw with the Broncos offense last year. It was an explosive offense, but it was not an efficient one. Far too often we stalled out. Far too often we couldn't finish drives. Far too often we couldn't put drives together, especially when we really needed it and really could have used it to get over the next level as far as, the progression of the game or whatever. But when I think about the Broncos offense last year, it felt like we were watching Diet Russell Wilson football. I'm not here to say that our offense wasn't much better and much improved, because it definitely was, but it felt like everything was either a check down, a big passing play, a deep ball, or, something that just goes absolutely nowhere. And, when you look at all the raw stats, like the Broncos went 3-and-out, the second most in the league after November. And that was when, after Bo Nix had his back injury and his turf toe that he suffered against the Raiders. And yeah, but basically throughout the entire year, it felt like the middle of the field passing game was non-existent. It felt like we didn't have a lot of guys who could attack over the middle of the field. Like when your tight end room is Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll, Nate Adkins, there's really not a whole lot of dynamic receiving threats there. And, the wide receiver play early on was ghastly, especially last year. Sutton, he's a boundary guy, but over the middle of the field, Franklin was still a developmental project. Vele was hurt, I think, in the first part of the year, and then as the year progressed, his role picked up or whatever. But, Mims did take a while to adjust as well. So, over the middle of the field, there wasn't a whole lot you could hang your hat on, at least consistently. And the run game was just a mess for most of last year. And it had a trickle-down effect on the rest of the offense. And vice versa, not having intermediate middle of the field weapons also hampered the run game. So all this combines into our offensive ecosystem, into what we got last year. Good offense? Sure. I'll take it, especially for what we had witnessed as Broncos fans over the past decade or so, and what we had been so used to seeing over the past few years. But, the run game last year in particular was really, really bad. And I felt like a lot of it was due to the fact that we just didn't have a lot of dynamic play from that room in general. Javante's out the door. Joel McLaughlin, he's still on the team, and Estime's still on the team as well. But it remains to be seen how the room shakes up after Harvey. But, yeah, so when I think about a lot of the things that hampered the Broncos offense last year, it felt like a lot of them got put on the back burner, because whenever we won, we usually won pretty big. And it can lead teams to oversee issues like, oh, Javonte Williams wasn't getting it done last year. The tight end room wasn't good enough last year. But guess what? We went out in free agency and the draft. We added Ingram. We added Harvey. We added Pat Bryant as well, who I think will help us attack the middle of the field. But yeah, so analytically last year, like I said, 10th in points per game. However, 17th in EPA per dropback and 20th in EPA per rush. I'm actually surprised it was that high. Nix also had passing success rate of 43% on all his passing plays, which is 36th out of 78 starting quarterbacks or 78 quarterbacks who took snaps last year. And he's 18th in third down conversion percentage. So most of the efficiency stats, they're like middle of the road. They did get better as the year went on, but here's why we will be much better as a team. And we're going to watch some of the film after I present this next slide. We finally have a dynamic runner with good vision. You give RJ Harvey an inch, he will take a mile. And when I was watching Harvey, one of the things that really stuck out to me was the fact that you give him this much space and you're just like, wow, he's making lanes that I didn't even know existed out of what the offensive line is given to him. So the fact that he is able to do that, and the fact that he actually has, dynamic capabilities in the receiving game, despite being not really used that way at UCF, it's just awesome. So I can't wait to see that as well. And when you add a big-bodied possession tight end and Evan Ingram, who can actually attack over the middle of the field, that's basically going to help our offense so much. It's going to help our offense, in a multitude of ways, but particularly on third down, because we didn't really have that go-to guy on third down. Sutton was very inconsistent from a down-to-down basis, and, you add an actual middle-of-field weapon like Ingram to the mix, and I feel like it's just going to get a lot better. And Pat Bryant, he also can attack over the middle field. Like, one of the areas I liked most about his game, watching his film from Illinois, was the fact that he was able to streak across the middle of the field, and he was able to, make some nice plays in the yak department. And this is just kind of another thing. Nix's chemistry with the pass catchers will be much more noticeable in year two of Sean Payton's scheme. there were a couple misfires. There were a couple plays where, we weren't on the same page. Our quarterback and our wide receivers weren't on the same page or whatever. But you know what? That'll all be rectified. So I've talked for long enough. Now it's time for us to jump into the film, and I'm going to show you the areas where we had shortcomings last year first, and then I'm going to show you the improvements coming to our offense in a multitude of ways. All right, so looking at some of the shortcomings that we had on the offensive side of the ball last year first, pay attention to Adam Troutman, number 82 right here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but I'm highlighting Troutman right there. And, one thing that I like the design of this play because Troutman is going to come open right here. But just watch this. So he locks up with Kool-Aid McKinstry, but he is just way too late at flipping his head around. Like, I don't know what you're looking at. You're going to see right here. Like, did you just see in that clip that there was nobody within even 10 yards of him? And so what he's going to do right here is watch it from the tight. Breaks out. Like, why is your head still over here? He doesn't turn around until way too late. It's just not good. Can't have it. Part of the reason why the tight end room was so bad last year was because we put so many eggs in the Greg Dulcich basket, and unfortunately it didn't pan out. And you're going to see why Greg Dulcich ultimately ended up getting cut from the team, I think, at the end of the year. But just watch this. Watch this in real time. That's just should be as easy as it gets in the NFL, especially over the middle of the field, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Dulcich had a really, really up and down arc, but unfortunately he's just been hampered because of the injuries and whatnot, and he just played terribly last year. All right. Third clip, we've got overtime against the Bengals. I really don't like the design of this play, but I don't like the chemistry either that Nix and Franklin had because this was the second overtime misfire where Franklin honestly was open and you could have ended Cincinnati's season on. But just check this out. So if you're going to watch right here, watch the middle of the field, boom. Now, the reason I don't like this design is I'm going to go back a little bit right here, and you're going to see that if we watch this in slow motion, you have basically two guys within a throwing lane, especially for where Nix is located in his eyesight. Like, I'm highlighting Nix right here, and just watch it. Like, if you just follow my mouse, there's literally two guys there. And so I think I don't know who that is. Yeah, that's Troutman right there. You're going to see when we watched it from the tight. I think Troutman thinks the ball is for him. And, he does cause some, like, artificial interference with his hand and whatnot. But, yeah. So, once again, Troutman thinks it's for him. Franklin's open right here. Like, this easily could have been hit. And remember, this was an overtime. This was a very crucial overtime moment. But, unfortunately, Nix and Franklin couldn't connect. They finally connected last year in the playoff game, which thank goodness, but yeah. So another player who I thought had just way too many gaffes last year was Lil Jordan Humphrey. And you're going to see one of his biggest gaffes right here. This was opening drive of the game. We had just converted a big third down, if I remember correctly. And then watch this. Like, you take the ball with the purpose of getting out to an early lead. And look at this. Lil Jordan Humphrey, he gets the ball, and unfortunately he puts it on the ground. And unfortunately, there was just way too much of this from Lil Jordan Humphrey last year, which is why, even though the coaching staff loved him, and I do think he got a lot of favoritism, that they just opted not to re-sign him. So, yeah, just can't put the rock on the ground like this. Can't put it in a precarious situation. This one is really, really infuriating because it really showcases the shortcomings of the running back room from last year. So, just watch this. Watch this from Javonte Williams. Okay. I don't know what more you could want him to do other than just literally cut back, stay patient, wait maybe one more second, and if you hit that hole, like, I don't know, all you have to do is make sure that no defenders in their, like, pursuit angle can catch up to you. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, but dude, come on, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Flip your helmet around, bro. Yeah, I don't know. It just showcases one of the far too many instances we had of Javonte running with some very poor vision last year. And then it's just an add bonus that he fumbles at the end of the play, too. All right, so now I'm going to tell you why the Broncos offense is going to be a lot more efficient next year. So Keep an eye on Jaguars number 17, Evan Ingram right here. He's just going to make a work towards the boundary right here, and he's going to go up and high point this ball. And this is something that we have not seen from a tight end in Denver in a long time. Like, check this out. Just textbook stuff right there, man. I'm going to rewind that actually a little bit so you guys can see the full thing. Watch this. High points the football. Well done. And that was on third down, so that was a money down too. So the fact that we finally have a guy who can do that, once again, just really showcases the good parts of the offense that are coming for us. So sorry that took a little bit to load again, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for us to have that go-to guy, that chain mover, and I think that that's the role that Evan Ingram can assume while he's on this team. Once again, another absolutely filthy outbreaking route by Evan Ingram right here. Just does a great job of boxing out right there towards the Vikings sideline. Vikings sideline can't believe it. They're signaling incomplete. I'm going to show that one more time before I show RJ Harvey. Mac Jones gets it to Evan Ingram. Fantastic work right there. So one of the big things that I'm excited for is a running back with real vision. I thought Jaleel ran with some pretty nice vision last year. Javonte, as we have seen, did not run with great vision. Estimate, too, I think his vision was kind of like up and down. But this is something that the Broncos have not had from any of their running backs either in a long time. And the fact that we got this in the same offseason that we got our tight end and another middle of the field weapon in Pat Bryant, absolutely fantastic. So if you're just looking at this play right here from UCF versus Iowa State, just check this out. If you're looking at this from right here, you think Harvey has absolutely nothing. But guess what? He bounces outside and he provides lanes and creates a lane that you didn't even know existed when you were watching from the tight. And he eventually does get chased down. But the fact that he was able to rip off a big gain almost out of seemingly nothing was absolutely incredible. I've got another RJ Harvey clip for you. This is time it's him out of the backfield. So, him being used to run this wheel route is an absolute mismatch for the CU defense. I don't know who this linebacker is who's supposed to be on him, but just does a great job of, our UCF quarterback does a great job of faking, and RJ Harvey's just to the house. Now, you can say, okay, whatever, this linebacker is super duper slow, but I can tell you a dude who's not super slow, and that is Travis Hunter trying to catch up to him, and he just does not make it happen. Well done. Well done, UCF right there. I'm so happy that we have RJ Harvey out of the backfield this year. It's going to be awesome. Watch that one more time. KJ Jefferson to RJ Harvey is just too easy. Travis Hunter trying to catch him and ultimately does not get there. So one of the reasons that I think the wide receiver room has a much higher floor next year is because we drafted Pat Bryant. And if he just assumes the Lil Jordan Humphrey role without the monumental gaffes, I am very, very happy with that because, Lil Jordan Humphrey, that was part of the experience last year is you'd get some good blocking, you'd get some good rack stuff, but you would get the worst drops and you would get the worst fumbles. So looking at Pat Bryant right here, Altmaier does a great job of staying in the pocket and getting hit as he delivers that ball to him. But look at that. Look at that yak ability. Look at that streaking across the middle of the field ability. And once again, this was something that was really, really missing from our offense last year. So we have a much higher floor, and we are going to be much more efficient on those money downs. We're going to be a much more efficient chain moving offense because of stuff like this. Yeah, really, really good right there. Really good. And then this is the last thing I'm going to show you. It's just, like I said, Bo Nix just maybe needs some chemistry with his wide receivers, and the chemistry with Devon Belay was on point right here. So if you just watch this, I have this at 70% speed because this is so sick. You guys are going to love this. Just rips it down the boundary. Absolutely rips it down the boundary. I'm going to show that one more time. It doesn't get much better than that, and I think we can get used to seeing more of that from Bo next year. So that's just all I have to say. The Broncos offense is going to be a lot more efficient next year for the reasons I underlined. And honestly, this is something that we can forget about in the offseason. But during the season, it drove me absolutely nuts how inefficient we were. And the fact that it drove me nuts, oh boy, you knew that Sean Payton was fuming all of last year, despite the fact that we went far, despite the fact that we made the playoffs. It wasn't always easy. A lot of the time, it felt like pulling teeth. But yeah, so that basically does it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Mile high salute. Peace.